Hi, I'm Dr. Steve Rasner, and welcome to the Lionhearted Podcast, part 2 that I started last week. This week, we're going to leave you with the major takeaways from our first Lionhearted Live weekend together in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And I don't have all the answers. You know what I have? I have 44 years of knowing definitely what I've done wrong and telling you not to do that and why, and definitely what I've done right. And so the subjects we covered were really thought out, and I want to include some of them. Like, I started out with, why am I qualified to share this with you? Why? And my answer was pretty simple. My answer was, I took 10 days off in the month of August, from August 8th to August 18th. And when I came back on whatever that Monday date was, all the relaxation gold that I had built up in my bank account of relaxation, of peacefulness, was pretty much gone by 11 o'clock that Monday. I don't care how long you've been practicing. Maybe you've learned a way to deal with dentistry better than others. But things happen in the profession you and I chose that make it challenging. I've never said it was easy. I do know how to condense it and into a model for you that makes it very, very doable, because we did choose a challenging profession. We just did. We're not art of the deal negotiators, and we work deals, and when we make a deal, we make 10 times what you and I make in 1 year, right? It's not, we provide a service, a medical service. And I don't think there's a dentist that's followed me or watched me that knows that what I believe in is that you want to be palpably the best in a far-ranging area or wherever you're practicing in the world. And you want to be ethical. You want to be known as having the highest integrity. You want to provide the highest standard of care and be proud of that if another dentist saw your work. I get it. I know I'm not alone in that pursuit. And when you have that as your goal, you get knocked down a lot for a lot of reasons. Maybe you did provide the best rehab case you've ever done, and the patient still leaves you because, I don't know, maybe their personal lives change financially and they can't afford to go out of network for you anymore. And you better believe I spend a lot of time in that weekend talking about a blueprint for you to go out of network. Everybody comes up and says, you got to be fee for service. You can't be insurance driven. Yeah, that's true. You know what else is true? That's a slow roll. You don't do that over a weekend. You don't do that. You don't go to a course and be intoxicated by the beauty of being fee for service and then drop all your insurances on Monday, because it'll be traumatic to you psychologically, financially. There's a way to do it over a period, in my opinion anyway, of a year and even 2 years. And it doesn't make you a lesser dentist than the guy down the street if you're not there yet. I practiced years and took insurance. So we talk about that. How do you go about getting from where you're at right now to 50-50, fee for service, insurance, to 25% to zero? And once you go zero, obviously, look, once you drop insurance, you're never going to, I promise you this. Once you drop your first plan and then your second and your third, you're never going to say that was a bad idea. You'll make more. You'll be more fulfilled because you're getting a fee that you've trained so hard for. In my opinion, that should be everybody's goal. So what else did we talk about? Well, we also talked about the importance at the Lionhearted Live of having and nurturing or creating a relationship-based practice. Relationship is not just a 12-letter word. It actually means something. And it's very easy to achieve. Let me ask you this question if you don't think it's important. Do you think it's important that your patient sits unnoticed in your reception room? Do you think it's important that they can get a live voice to speak to when they call your office? How about if it's important if no one returns their calls when they call you? Or if the doctor's in the operatory with you and he's constantly interrupted? Do you think it matters if your venue isn't immaculate? I had a new patient today, like 2 hours ago. When I asked him, why did he leave his last practice and what brought him to me? He said, and I haven't heard this in quite a long time. He says, I got tired of going to dental offices that I didn't think were hygienic, that they were dirty. That's what he said. Being immaculate in your office, in your restroom, you don't think it matters? Think about it. If somebody comes into your office and there's stains on the rug, now you've tried to get that stain out a couple times, but you can't. Or your reception room has debris left behind. When I say debris, a coffee cup, a crumped up napkin. They go into your restroom and it's not immaculate. There's stains, hand stains on glass, windows, or doors in your office. Hey, they can get average or mediocre anywhere. If they're in my office and if I have any influence on you, it's going to be Walt Disney clean. Because that doesn't cost any money. That just takes time and effort and vigilance by you and the team. That's the kind of thing we talked about when it came to relationships. And it's more than that. With a relationship-based practice, if you want to achieve that, you have to take the time to achieve it. We talked about that. We talked about the importance of running a worthwhile meeting. How many times have you guys had meetings in your career and you drove home and you said, that was a waste. I don't think anybody got anything out of that. And that's because there is an art to giving a worthwhile meeting. And we go over that art. Now, if you're going to give a meeting, if you're going to run a meeting in your office, it better be worthwhile and everybody better gain from it or there's no point in doing it. So you would have a meeting about how you can become the relationship-based practice in your community. And there's a lot of ways to do it. The easiest way, for example, of all the things I just said, is make it a point to be on time. I remember for years when I would look in my reception room, it would look jammed like a train station. And I used to justify that by saying to myself, look, I'm not a psychiatrist. I can't look at my watch and say, time's up. It's not true. You just haven't made being on time a priority. And when you do, and you're thinking about it, and everybody does, you take patients back before they even have a chance to sit in your reception room. And let me tell you something, that's very different for most patients. And that is a major plus as soon as you start. Everybody likes efficiency and not to waste their time. So we talk about that. That's an easy project for you to acquire in your own practice. Well, how about other stuff? I'll tell you what else, and I don't know if you buy this, but I do this, and I would encourage you to do this. Every week, you should do multiple things for your patients that have nothing to do with anything. It's not marketing. It has nothing to do with anything except creating a unspoken vibe that you care about the patient. That's what a relationship-based practice is. So what is that? Might be a phone call, might be a card. If you have a large community of patients, what you need an office manager or somebody in your office who cares about that like you do and will tip you off. And what do I mean by tip off? I mean, I come out to this desk that I'm sitting here talking to you from right now, and there'll be a card on that with a note. John such and such just got out of the hospital. John's wife just got out of the hospital. They just had a new baby. Worse, of course, I don't have to go into that. And I have a card, a sympathy card, right? It only takes me a minute to share my thoughts with a patient. But if you do that 3 to 4 times a week, it's 16 times a month. That is I don't know the math, 180, 190 times a year, and you do that times multiple years, you become a member of the community that's just more than a dentist. And a second, an unspoken way to do that is to do multiple clinical things per week, clinical, without the expectation of a fee. What am I talking about? I want you to think about this. You put a tooth back on a denture, even if it's a denture you didn't do. And so the patient comes in, they say something like this: "Doctor, I know you didn't make this denture, but it still fits me great. This tooth came off. Can you help me with it?" Now, I know usually what happens is you say yes, and you have a protocol for how you put a tooth back on a denture. Patient goes out and you charge them whatever fee you charge them. You want to bond with your patients. Let them know that you're not always about the money. Even if it came to $20,000 a year of free services, a tooth back on a partial, a tooth back on a denture, a second opinion for free of one tooth for whatever it is. Maybe the patient moved out of town. Maybe the patient, whatever it is, wanted your opinion on what they need on a tooth. And a recementation of a crown you didn't do. Now I know what you're thinking. Now he's gone too far. That Rasner. Now he wants me to keep doing free stuff. I'm simply here to share with you what I've learned and what works, which I'm positive that works. When you do a few things per week, just like writing a card or a phone call to a patient, it adds up. And over years, it doesn't become incongruent for you to be the best place to go in town, the highest fee dentist in town, and a guy that people respect because he's not all about the money. Why shouldn't you get paid if you're a comprehensive care dentist that spent a lifetime of CE? That's got nothing to do with, I always say this. You want to live your life and have everybody love you? Well, I didn't make this up. Somebody else said it smarter than me. Sell ice cream. Okay? Everybody will love you. There's nothing involved with that. But you're not an ice cream salesman. You're a dentist. And in your family of patients that you treat each year, there is an opportunity that won't drive you bankrupt to do things, smaller things. Did you ever treatment plan a crown on an upper left molar, and when you prepped the tooth, you saw little caries that you didn't see on the x-ray on the distal of an adjacent tooth? I don't recharge the patient for that. I don't say, you know what I say? I say, "Listen, Joan, when I was in there, I found a small cavity on the tooth next to it. I didn't see it before. I took care of it for you. It's on the house. Just remember me when one of your friends needs a good dentist." Something like that. Or, "I took care of it for you. It's on the house." I mean, over and over again, I hear myself doing things like this. And I've done this for the last 30 plus years. Did I do it my first couple years? I'm not going to come on here and make up things I don't remember, but I know I've done it for 30 years. So that's what I mean when you hear me talk about relationship-based practice. Another subject that we covered over the weekend was leadership. What's that look like? Well, you know what? You're going to have to take the course to hear that one. But I'll leave you with 3 tips. Number 1, what the first one's going to throw you. Hire like-minded staff. If you have a team that you're leading great right now, that feels right to you, then when you go to hire the next staff member, don't hire an outlier. Don't hire a witch. You know what a witch is, right? They constantly feed on negativity. They run hot and cold in the same morning. They never attend anything as a team. We could go on with that over and over again. You can kind of tell a witch in the interview. Don't do that. Number 2, we're talking about leadership right here. Keep your word. It's not hard to do, but you got to be vigilant about it. You have somebody come in your office and you hire them at a certain wage, and you say to them, which often happens, and you guys know this, you say to them, "Listen," and I say this often, "I'm going to start you at this rate for the first 90 days. Your job is to show me what you have for 90 days. Show me how responsible you are, how accountable you are, how motivated, how you want to grow. And in 90 days, if you accomplish all that, there'll be a new rate, and you can expect blank. 3, be available. Good leaders are available. They're never too big to sit down with their team members one-on-one. Now, I can't speak for you offices that have 50 staff members or 100 staff members. I would say you better have some good office managers. That's what I would say. But I think it makes a world of difference to every member of the team in this office, and there's 22 of them, when they know they can say to me, can we meet? I'd like to discuss something with you, which, by the way, is usually terrible. I'm just kidding. When I always make it a point, and if one thing I would tell you to learn early on in your career, it's make yourself available. Even if your team member didn't ask to meet with you, if you just ask to meet with them, so you can say, I want to tell you some great things I'm seeing about you right now. I do. And I hope you keep it up, because you're going to have a great career with me. The last thing I want to leave with you, well, there's 2 things I want to leave with you. I'll call them takeaways from Lionhearted Live. Another cornerstone I want to leave with you that I was very proud to present in Philadelphia that weekend was the differences between treatment planning and case presentation. They are 2 different things. Treatment planning is science. It's a patient coming into you saying, this is my chief complaint. It's you collecting all the data, a CBCT, periapical radiographs, periocharting, missing teeth, joint muscle exam, a complete exam, and telling the patient the incredibly important, what I call, what to do when. What can you recommend to this patient that's in your chair? That will make or break you. Obviously, we've all experienced telling a patient, recommending to a patient that they should go down this road. Let's say it was a partial denture, right? And it didn't work out. And the patient wasn't happy with your treatment recommendations when you were done. Sometimes you can do this in visit 1, depending on what it is. They have a healthy dentition, a stable vertical dimension of occlusion. They break 1 root canal tooth off below the gum. Well, there's an implant. It's pretty easy. I actually love those cases, and you should too. You should understand that you could have a great career just treating patients that have stable vertical dimensions and healthy periodontium. There's nothing wrong with that. Case presentation is panache. It's style. It's how you, and that's very important, because if you don't have any of that, your treatment planning could be dead on, but your patient won't accept it because you're missing connecting with them. And we talked about both at great length. And you probably won't be surprised that I think every detail of both of them, treatment planning, case presentation, counts. Everything from this. Where do you present the cost of the treatment? Do you do it in the operatory where you were doing everything else? Or do you take them out of the operatory, as you've seen on some of my reels lately, and walk them in to the secret fancy room? The quick answer, that's a no-no. I wouldn't do that if I was you. So we go over every detail. What should you look like? How should you respond to the patient? What is their personality type? And believe me, it does matter. So are they a thinker, socializer, driver? I got to tell you, as I'm sharing this with you right now, I can't wait to see some of you at the next one, because it was really fulfilling to the members in that audience. I could tell. And it was game changer. It was a instant injection of electricity, of passion into their, into all of them, to go back to their office and take it up a few notches. It's easy, guys, isn't it? It's easy to get burned out. You got to ask yourself, are you and your team right now leaving no stone unturned in your pursuit of an elite practice? Like, it's not something you do once in a while. You have to, You know what the funny thing is about what you and I do? It doesn't matter if last week was a record-setting week, does it? Because next Monday, there's no guarantee what that week's going to be like in dentistry. There just isn't. And you have to put it all together every week, really every day. So are you maintaining every day, or you just do it in spurts? A palpably different culture. They can get average anywhere down the street, probably for much less than you. I have to also ask you, are you willing to relentlessly recruit the best team members you can get? Or are you just going to go with the easy road? Your guys are pretty good because it's easier not to change. Are you going to be vigilant? And I am so vigilant about the look of my venue. I mean, I just care. I just don't want to be in a situation where I'm embarrassed because there's something somewhere that shouldn't be that way. And it can't just be me. It can't just be you. Everybody has to be vigilant. And lastly, and most importantly, are you willing to collaborate with your team? That means you're willing to meet. Nobody wants to meet. If you work hard in a successful practice, you have quite a bit to do from 9 to 5 or whatever your hours are. And it takes a special place that's willing to meet within those hours. So put down your drills, put down everything, and you're going to collaborate all your minds to make your place better than it is right now. That is one of the requirements of having a lion-hearted practice. I will tell you, everything we talked about on that weekend is something we do. I would never insult my own integrity or your intelligence by proposing you to do something that I haven't done. I know what works. I know that I'm located in one of the most challenging areas in the United States of America. I'm in southern New Jersey. And southern New Jersey's broad. I'm not talking about Cherry Hill and Marlton and places like that are a suburb of Philadelphia. They are vastly different than where I'm at. And I'm not criticizing my own county because it's been very good to me. What I am saying is that you can become amazing no matter where you're located if you're willing to put the energy and time into what you're creating. You know, I had a gentleman at Lionhearted Live who I never met before named Javier Quiroz, Dr. Javier Quiroz. He's a prosthodontist from Costa Rica. Think about that. Costa Rica, I asked him, is not an affluent part of the world. Yet he has an amazing world-class practice. You know what that reminds me of? And I told him this when we interviewed him. It reminds me of about 10 years ago, and a skier won the Olympic long ski jump that was from some South American country that didn't even have snow. When you're really great at something, I mean not fake great. I don't mean half great. Like I meant you made a commitment like he did. And quite honestly, like many of my lion-hearted colleagues have, certainly like I have, when you make that commitment, it doesn't really matter where you're located. People will find you. And I've been in this community for 44 years. And I have to tell you, a lot of you would be very pleased to have this practice, to walk in for, at this point in my career and for a long time, 100% of out-of-network patients, to have patients truly feel connected to my team and to me, and to be appreciative that we exist. I mean, I'm not surrounded by other practices like this. I am surrounded by 100% insurance-driven practices where these hardworking people could spend less money to get some level of oral health care. I believe in my heart of hearts, there's a market in every niche or in every corner of the world for patients that want the best. And the best is your care, and the best is how you treat them and make them feel value. And that really is the heart and soul of the lion-hearted philosophy. I hope this helps a few of you. Stay connected to me. Reach out to me. I'll see you next week on The Lion-Hearted.